Today's lesson, I'm sorry, we're not gonna go to Psalms today, but,
It's a good scripture.
what?
It's a good scripture.
Would you like to recite it? Only three.
Not from memory.
Okay. Well, I told somebody this morning, Gary or somebody, that Wally's always had me on standby in case something like this comes up and he can't come in that morning. He did ask me Wednesday, the day that she died, to teach, and he had his lesson already. But and I tried to put one together, and I thought it takes me a lot longer than Wally does. So I did have one ready, and I tried to shorten it a little bit because I think I usually always do too long. Everything I learn, I'm gonna tell y'all. But then I took a few things out, and then I put some stuff in there about me, so I don't know if it's gonna be short or not. But let's see what I come up with. The title of the lesson today is Trust God. And we're going to go, there's lessons out of the book of Habakkuk. And there's only 3 chapters there. I kind of skip around in those verses, but we'll look around and see what we come up with. Now, here's my question. Do the events going on in the world, and especially in our country here, do they concern you, disturb you, or anger you? Oh, I tell you this because I know there's one other person in this room that I've talked to that just gets aggravated at the stuff that's going on in this world. And so it drives me crazy. And this lesson's for me as much as anybody else because I get really mad at some of this stuff. Now, the acceptance of abortion, up to the day of birth and even after, these places are approving it. People in the states. Murder, who said that? Murder. The acceptance of homosexuality and transgenders as normal. It's not normal, folks. I got curious this week because I'd heard rumors about Facebook and stuff have had several different genders you could pick from. I got on Google, how many genders are there? And I found there's like 112 of them listed. Kim asked me, what are they? I don't know. Some of them, they got fluid on some of them where they could just change their attitudes all the time. And I tried to sign back up on Facebook, but they wouldn't let me because I already have an account there. So I tried to see how many they listed. But anyway, 2 genders, folks.
Yes.
Letting people choose their own sex. I saw a video. I'd love to show it, but it was full of profanities. But this guy, obviously, his hair was a little bit long for a guy. I mean, it wasn't, maybe like a K there or something. But he got mad at a guy in a store because he said yes, sir, to him. And he said, you can plainly see I'm a woman. And he ranted and raved. Wow, it was. Anyway, here's one that gets me a lot. Or letting a parent choose the child's sex.
Yes.
Oh, you're a boy, right?
No, I'm a girl.
Who told you you were a girl?
Mommy.
When did she tell you you were a girl?
Cause I love girls.
Oh, I see. So mommy told you you were a girl? Does mommy do anything else like with a girl with you? Like what?
Pictures.
What does she do?
She comes in line of me.
She puts dresses on you? Oh wow. And what else does she do?
She buys my headbands.
Uh-huh.
And she gets me hair clips.
Oh, hair clips? Okay. What else?
Some microphones.
What else?
Like a skeleton.
Does she do anything with your fingers?
Yeah.
What?
She paints my nails.
Why does she do that?
Cause I love my nail polish.
Oh. So mommy puts you in a dress and puts nail polish on you? And what does mommy tell you?
She tells me I'm a girl.
Oh, okay. Do you think you're a girl? You do? Is that why you wear this, so that you can have long hair? Okay.
This is a local case here. I'm sure you've heard about it. And this boy is about 7 or 8 now, I think, and it's been in courts back and forth, and they've had some jury trials. That's really strange. this, it makes me sick at the piece that, this next one I want to say, just like makes me downright angry. This is the doctor, this is a recent deal, but it's in England. The doctor, 30 years he worked at this place, and they fired him for refusing to call a person by the wrong name. You know, if they have a sex change operation and they want to go by Sue instead of Larry, they fired the guy. So this little video on that.
Should transgender rights trump religious beliefs? Dr. David Murrell joins us from Birmingham. Very good morning to you. What is the religious belief which stops you using the chosen pronoun of those who have transitioned?
Well, I think we have to start by recognising how important pronouns are within our language. This is a complete change in the way we use them. And even if we leave the religious factor out, we have a problem that by changing the way we use pronouns, we completely change who we are as a society and who we are as people. And it doesn't just affect a small group of people, it affects every single one of us. But as a Christian, I believe that to use pronouns in that way is dishonest. And I cannot do that in a good conscience.
I mean, let me ask you, what is the pronoun that you object to? Because if somebody born biologically male transitions to be female, why would you not respect that? Why would you not just call them she?
Okay, the sound quality was poor, but I understand the question to be, if somebody has transferred from being male to female, why could I not also change my use of pronouns? The answer is I don't believe that a person can change sex. I don't believe a person can change gender, and that sex and gender are the same thing.
Do you understand that that makes you a bigot?
Define bigot for me.
Bigot is somebody woefully intolerant of people who go through an extraordinarily long and painful transition process, both physically and psychologically, and they do it because fundamentally they believe they were born in the wrong body, the wrong gender, the wrong sex. They believe that if they were born biologically male, they are actually women, they're female. And shouldn't you just find it in your Christian heart, given that you're such a Christian, to actually respect that?
Well, the Bible tells us that God has made us male and female. He made us for his own glory. If I'm a bigot, then the whole of Christianity throughout history is bigotry. I don't believe that. I believe Christianity is the truth of God.
The Bible says if you look at people in an adulterous manner, you should be stoned to death. Do you agree with that?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, do you walk around the streets, given your self-righteousness, do you wander around the streets of your city now looking for people who are looking at people in a lustful way and stone them to death?
You haven't established that I'm self-righteous, but I'm a sinner saved by the grace of God through faith in Jesus Christ. So I carry the righteousness of Jesus Christ. I long for the same thing for everybody that I have, which is to know him. That includes people of every kind of background. But you're right, if we were to apply the Bible literally without taking its context, every one of us could be stoned to death. Every one of us has broken God's commandments. I'm not saying I'm better than anybody.
Have you ever looked at people in a sinful way, lustful way?
Well, of course I have.
Okay, well then you should you know what, then applying the letter of the law and applying the law of the Bible, you should now stone yourself to death. Let's go to transgender journalist India Willoughby. I mean, this is the problem, isn't it, to me? You know, I'm a Christian, I was brought up a Catholic, but when I hear this kind of stuff, my heart sinks. It's like, it's so intolerant of something which is clearly, if people go through a transitioning process from male to female or female to male, it's such an arduous thing to do. That's what I always think. Why would you put yourself through it if you didn't fundamentally believe, as you did clearly, that you're just, you know, that's what you want to be?
Well, the idea, you've just highlighted the very thing I was going to say, that the Bible is full of contradiction.
Any comments about that?
I'm angry.
Huh?
I'm angry.
I stopped it right here.
Is that a
because
man?
That is a man. It said the Bible is full of contradictions. And Piers Morgan just said he was a Christian. And he didn't say a word to him. And he said that. And he sat there and he called this gentleman on the street, who I believe is a true Christian, he called him a bigot and self-righteous. right there on their TV. So that's the kind of stuff that makes me mad. So and we got the attacks on the church. You know, if you preach the word of God, they're calling you a bigot. Censor any type of Christian speech that they can find. Do these attacks leave you with a feeling of hopelessness, despair, or pain? Anybody besides me? Does it make you feel that God has let you down or is not paying attention? That is one thing it did to Habakkuk when we get there. We live in a wicked world. Wicked people are guilty of violating the social rights of others through oppression, greed, exploitation, murder, dishonesty in business, and twisting justice. We live in a wicked world which will soon be united under the wicked one who will foolishly oppose God and meet thus his doom along with all who follow him. Now, I highlight soon. And we talked about this. I mean, I don't know, every generation probably thinks that the end of the world's coming soon. But if Jesus Christ told us in Matthew, and Daniel told us in his book, and then John in Revelation, they give us the signs to look for. And I think all these signs are falling into place. I think we're really close. And like you say, Pastor David Jeremiah, who's 79 years old, said that he believes he's lived long enough to see the rapture. So we'll see about that. The secular values which today's society is based upon are a formula for disaster, especially if we as Christians buy into these values. And far too many Christians are buying into these values. The Methodist Church is fixing to vote in May to split and go their own ways. Believers, and what I call non-believers, they don't believe the Bible, what it says about these things. They're going to vote in the Presbyterian Church. It's already done. And there's rumblings. I've heard some rumbling in the Baptist Church, but we'll see. We're all touched on a regular basis with evil things of this world. Religious attacks, sexual perversion, drugs, pornography, dishonesty, materialism, pedophilia, and incest and violence. And in Isaiah 5:20, it'll tell us about at the times when things that are true will be called not true, and things that are normal will be backwards. Y'all got that, right? First person I heard say that was Dr. Robert Jeffress. Things that will be accepted as normal were not normal before, and vice versa. That is happening all over in this world. Our government is in a state of chaos. Anybody disagree with that? Good. This is to name but a few of the things that are going wrong in our world. Why are we are all touched on a regular basis with the evil things of this world? Why? Anybody have an answer to that or a feeling?
Because Satan's going to and fro in the world.
Satan going to and fro.
And the world is his. Yeah.
The world is his, all right.
He thinks it is.
He thinks it
He
is.
thinks it is, right.
No, he's been called.
It's temporary.
Yeah, he's been allowed to take the world.
And Satan has TV now.
Yeah.
And the internet.
That's true. The internet,
Yeah.
the other thing.
Well, here's there's little JH down there. That's because that's my opinion. But the cultures of this world do not want to follow the commands of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Another JH. They want to live their sinful lives without anyone looking down on their sinful behavior.
Exactly.
They want their behavior to be considered normal. Here's one of the attacks on the Christians. If you could read that, I took this picture off of YouTube. It's, if Mary had had an abortion, we wouldn't be in this mess. Are we in a mess?
Oh my.
And these people are applauding abortion these days. You know, Bill Clinton, when this stuff passed, he said it'll be safe and infrequent or something like that.
All the people that are for abortion have already been born.
Yeah.
That's true.
That's good, Barry.
Well, yeah,
That's true. I think that's a Ronald Reagan quote, isn't it? And then, well, I could go on forever. Okay, now I posted this on Facebook. I think I posted it on Christmas Day. And the main reason this is here is because at the very top it says Netanyahu's Christmas message: Israel has no better friend than Christians. I posted this on Christmas Day. And then a couple days later, I get this from Facebook. Your post goes against our community standards on spam. That posting Mr. Netanyahu is spam. No one else can see your post. We have standards to prevent things like false advertising, fraud, and security breaches. Now, I didn't think any of that falls into that category. Goes on to say our standards on spam. These are, I know it's probably small, I can't read it, but we don't allow people to use misleading or inaccurate information to get likes, followers, or shares. Now, we define spam as things like artificially increasing content distribution to make money. I didn't want to make no money by that. Requiring people to like, share, or recommend content before they can view it, pretending to be someone else. Now, I didn't do anything like that. I don't think Prime Minister Netanyahu did that. But my wife, she told me, and she was right, I didn't see this at the first, but your message could not be sent because it includes content that other people on Facebook have reported as abusive.
And that's Facebook,
Facebook, yes, sir. You know, I've heard a lot of things about people getting blocked and, stuff. Diamond and Silk, y'all know them?
Yes.
Yeah, they got blocked by Facebook. They finally got back on there. And I've heard some senators and stuff do that too. I didn't think Jerry Hunter ever had that. But Facebook's not smarter than me.
So
Because-
can we report some of the stuff that we see on Facebook as abusive and get it off?
I guess you can because, but I don't know how to do that.
Well, Facebook did take my Facebook away from me after all this time. One day it didn't recognize me, my email, nothing. And I tried several times. And then it said you got to set up another password. I thought that's all I was doing. They set me up a new account. My friends are gone. And that's why if you sent me anything on Facebook, I haven't got it.
Well, I outfoxed Facebook. 'Cause she knows me. I went back and I found that article again. It's from a website called Breaking Israel News. And I found it again. And I tried to post it and it wouldn't let me. So I took pictures of it. And the very pictures that I had, I put back on Facebook just as a picture. It wasn't a link to the website or anything. And I checked this morning, it's still there.
I got it, yeah.
So anyway. How does the Word of God address this wickedness? Go to Romans. And since they did not see fit to acknowledge God, God gave them up to a debased mind to do what ought not to be done. Sound like God just gave up on them, let them do their sin. They were filled with all manner of unrighteousness, evil, covetousness, malice. They were full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, and maliciousness. They are gossipers, slanderers, haters of God, insolent, haughty, boastful, inventors of evil, disobedient to parents, foolish, faithless, heartless, and ruthless. Pretty plain, isn't it? Though they know God's righteous decree, those who practice those things deserve to die. They not only do them, but they give approval to those who practice them. I think that confirmed my little JH. They know this is accepted. And in this day and time, they've done a pretty good job of it. Is there any hope left for our country, for our world? Hope?
Yes.
Was that you, Hope, or what? Let's go back a few thousand years for the answers. We find the answers in the book of Habakkuk, first chapter. The oracle that Habakkuk the prophet saw, O Lord, how long shall I cry for help, and you will not hear? or cry to you for violence, and you will not save? Why do you make me see the iniquity? Why do you idly look at wrong? Destruction and violence are before me. Strife and contention arise. So the law is paralyzed, and justice never goes forth. For the wicked surround the righteous, so justice goes forth perverted. Does that sound like today?
Exactly.
In these verses, Habakkuk is expressing his concern that in these areas God has been indifferent, inactive, and inconsistent. And we go on to verses 5 through 11 in chapter 1, and Habakkuk tells about the Babylonians and the Chaldeans who will soon be invading Judah. God will allow the Babylonians to invade Judah in the near future. As this wickedness was predominant in Judah, they were facing the certainty of coming destruction by Babylon. They were coming destruction by Babylon. And Habakkuk experienced fear that penetrated his inward parts. In the third chapter, we read this: I hear and my body trembles. My lips quiver at the sound. Rottenness enters my bones. My legs tremble beneath me. So he was pretty physically shaken and disturbed by some of this stuff. And maybe I'll be smarter and just let that happen to me. I just get angry. So what in the world has been going on? In the second chapter we read, I would take my stand at my watchpost and station myself on the tower and look out to see what he will say to me and what I will answer concerning my complaint. So Habakkuk's talking to God. He said, here, I'm ready. I'm on my watchpost. What's the deal? And the Lord answered me, write the vision. Make it on plain tablets so he may run who reads it. For still the vision awaits its appointed time. It hastens to the end. It will not lie. If it seems slow, wait for it. For surely come, it will not delay. It will surely come, it will not delay. You know, we read elsewhere in the Bible that 1,000 years is a day, a day is 1,000 years. So God's view of soon is a lot different than ours. That we don't understand, but we will. He says we will understand it someday. So and he told this to Habakkuk, 2,500 years ago. But we will know the truth. Habakkuk was instructed to record God's answer on tablets, an echo of the giving of the law written on tablets of stone that he had an echo of giving the law written on tablets of the stone that God had given to Moses. Recording the message on stone resulted in a permanent but portable message that a messenger could deliver. The message was to encourage the faithful of Judah that the vision of events was ready for the appointed time, but it would certainly come, and it will not delay. God's instructions to put this writing in stone is just as important to us today. It applies to us. In chapter 2, God gives 5 woes to Babylon. And woe means how tragic for you in Hebrew. The first woe is Babylon's oppressive financial practices, unjust gain, brutality, inhumanity to their neighbors, and Babylon's idolatry. Do those sins sound like today? So how do we as Christians today face the evil of this world? We go back to Habakkuk 1, verse 5. Look among the nations and see, wonder and be astounded, for I am doing a work in your days that you would not believe if told. God responded to Habakkuk's questions and concerns by stating that he would do amazing acts that would astound Habakkuk. When circumstances around us become almost unbearable, we wonder if God has forgotten us. We may wonder if God has forgotten us as a country because we have turned from our religious background, our Christian background, to me, or this satanic background. But remember, he is in control. God has a plan and will judge evildoers in his time. If we are truly humble, we will be willing to accept God's answers and to wait his timing. These are the lessons that I needed to learn. Chapter 2, verse 4 tells us the righteous will live by their faithfulness to God. Christians must trust, must have faith that God is directing all things according to his purposes. One who has faith in God will also live in faithfulness to him. You know, back up just a second. And I love Dr. David Jeremiah, already quoted him, but I got this little book, and I've read about this week, about a story about God's timing. Let me read it to you. Many of you have heard of Corrie ten Boom. I don't know a lot about her, but I know the name. And says one of the many sorrows her and her sister Betsy had to endure with, they were in a concentration camp. And one of the horrors they had endured that in the barracks is that were infested with fleas. The bites were so painful and frequent, but when Corrie complained to Betsy, her sister, her sister said, be thankful for the fleas, be thankful for the fleas, knowing God has a purpose for everything. Now, many years later, after leaving the camp, Corrie learned that the brutal guards didn't enter their worship services because they refused to enter the flea-infested barracks. So her sister told her that God has a purpose for that. And they were doing worship services in those barracks when the guards wouldn't come in there and disrupt them or do anything to them. God has his timing. The message of Habakkuk continues to be a source of hope for faithful believers whenever they are facing difficult days. In an honest journey from complaint and doubt to resolution, faith, and praise, Habakkuk shows us God's justice ultimately prevails, so that above all, he can be trusted. God's answer to Habakkuk is the same answer he would give us today. If it seems slow, wait for it. It will surely come. It will not delay. God is able to work out his plans in his perfect timing. It isn't easy to be patient, but it helps to remember that God hates sin even more than we do. Punishment of sin will certainly come. God reminded Habakkuk to wait patiently, and we should do the same. Habakkuk's feelings were not controlled by the events around him, but by faith in God's ability to give him strength. When nothing makes sense, and when trouble seems more than you can bear, remember that God gives strength. Take your eyes off your difficulties and look to God. At the proper time, God will bring about his justice and completely rid the world of evil. In the meantime, God's people need to live in the strength of his Spirit, confident in his ultimate victory over evil. God is alive and in control of this world. This remarkable encounter between Habakkuk and the Lord concludes with a lesson as relevant today as it was 2.5 millennia ago. He loved the Lord and was willing to seek to understand his ways. Yet he was also willing to trust and rejoice in God's salvation, even when his plans seemed beyond comprehension. Those who love the Lord may still be facing incomprehensible difficulties, but they should not be overwhelmed by them. Those who live by faith will remain loyal to him despite circumstances. Remembering that God is the salvation and strength of his people will produce rejoicing in the Lord and confidence in the Lord's ultimate good plan. At Christ's returns, he will vindicate his followers. When the earth is filled with knowledge of the Lord, as the waters cover the sea. Christ will vindicate his followers. And all we have to do is be patient and wait, know who's in control. Anybody have any questions?
Makes me think of Revelation, when the martyrs are crying out under the altar, God, when will you avenge us? And he tells them, be patient, I will. And we're still waiting for him to do that for them.
We're still waiting.
There's still martyrs being made every day.
Every day, every single day. You know, there's one that average every 5 minutes. People don't realize that across the world. Somebody's been killed for Jesus Christ, average every 5 minutes.
But that does connect with today's lesson. Today's lesson was confession and staying with the Lord. And, have the Psalms.
Right, thank you. He's the only one who read the lesson today. When I was in Nigeria, they had a mass killing over there. 400 people killed by I don't know if I think it's the Fulani herdsmen. You may have heard of the Boko Haram, but Fulani herdsmen are bad. And they killed 400 of them. They buried them all in a mass grave. And that quote from Revelation is on the stand about the martyrs. So if there no more questions or comments?
Songs that have brought them home. Join us now for the Oak Ridge Bowl.